Jerusalem, capital city of modern Israel, a sacred place for three great world religions. For Jews, this is the city of the Temple Mount, the holiest of holy places.
The YEHA temple is the sacred house, Bayt al-Muqaddas, that people raised on the Tur, the Abyssinian Highlands, referring to the house frequented, or al-Bayt al-Mamur, before the rise of Islam and Christianity.
From the beginning, Jerusalem had the status of a holy city, a status it has never lost. King David ordered that the most sacred object of his people's religion should be enshrined there, the Ark of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Covenant is the most important religious artifact for the three monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity and Islam. As mentioned, Muqaddas is the location inside the Abyssinian temple that has the Tabot or Ark of the Covenant, whether it is the true Ark or a structure in the shape of the true Ark. What if I tell you that the YEHA temple is the actual place that used to hold the true Ark of the Covenant before it was moved to the Church of St. Mary of Zion in Ethiopia?
And the Solomon's Temple stood as a glorious monument to the Israelites' faith.
The Temple of YEHA goes back to before Christianity and Islam. It was built in the days of the Prophet Solomon.
The temple was built on one of the hills of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a very hilly city, mountainous, I guess you'd say, and therefore being built on the top of one of the mountains, it would certainly be very visible.
On the Abyssinian Highlands exists the oldest place of worship, the Temple of YEHA.
Now, strategically, the area of Israel, as we know it today, is a military strategist's worst conceivable nightmare. It's a narrow plain with mountains on one side and sea on the other.
From a geological perspective, the Abyssinian Highlands is considered to be one block, moulded since creation from one origin. This range is called the Abyssinian Tower, also referred to as the African Tower, because it is the biggest group of mountains with a height that extends in one chain in Africa for a very long distance, 519,278 kilometers squared. That's why Ethiopia is sometimes referred to as a tower. Even the highest peak in Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro, extends only to 4,000 kilometers squared.
But Jerusalem does afford some protection, and David undoubtedly looked at Jerusalem as being the ideal place in which to establish his kingdom. It had water, it was mountainous, he could protect it.
Remind ourselves of the first verses of Surat al-Tur and try to make sense of them. By the Tur, and the book written in organized lines on an unrolled goat skin, and by the house frequented, and by the roof exalted, and by the Bahr kept filled, or the large body of water kept filled. Let's get started with and by the house frequented. The obvious understanding is that on the Tur, on the tower heights, on the biggest highest spot in all of the Arabian and African region, the Abyssinian Highlands, there is a place of worship, the Temple of YEHA.
And David undoubtedly looked at Jerusalem as being the ideal place in which to establish his kingdom. But Jerusalem does afford some protection.
The Abyssinian Highlands as the tower heights. The word tower simply means the highest location from which you can see across the largest possible landscape around you. There's nothing as high and nothing as big as this spot in all of the Arabian and African region. To further simplify this, the word tower originally comes from tour in Arabic. The word tower in French is tour, in Spanish it's torre, in Italian also torre, and in German it's turm. It's clear they all come from the same word, the Arabic word tour. Of course, this is no coincidence, because if you look in the Oxford English Dictionary, you'll find that the origin of tower is Tur.
It had water, it was mountainous, he could protect it.
It's also worth noting that there's another name for the Abyssinian Highlands, that is, the Water Tower. This is because it is the water source of the River Nile Valley for all this region, south from Abyssinia, north and east from Sudan, and all the way to the Mediterranean.